There are advancing signs of senility in the White House, again, for the second president running. Say what you like about Barack Obama, but at least he had his marbles, even if he squandered them in achieving precisely nothing, maybe the opposite of nothing, in his two presidential campaign terms. But the Joe Biden era, where Otto Pen was really in charge, has been followed by Donald Trump, who is lurching dangerously, leaping from one area of concern to another in the world and becoming increasingly incoherent and otherworldly. It is simply otherworldly to pretend that there is no Epstein file. It is utterly an insult to the intelligence of his own base, first and foremost, the American people, secondly, and the world, thirdly, to pretend that the subject that he and his acolytes endlessly paraded as an emblem of the rottenness and corruption at the heart of Washington, now we're told we're stupid people if we continue to talk about it. Now we're told it was all a hoax. A hoax got up by Obama and Hillary Clinton. Absurd, I know, as Bill Clinton is the most heavily fingered individual in the entire Epstein affair, unless Hillary is trying to finally get rid of him. The idea that which Kash Patel and the Attorney General Bondi and the Vice President J.D. Vance and the presidential son Donald Trump Jr. and the president himself endlessly lambasted the Democrats about, we're now told was actually a hoax by them. Nobody's buying it. The latest polls show a further precipitous drop in Donald Trump's presidential approval ratings, to the extent to which everybody in the Republican Party needs to be very worried indeed about the next test of opinion. In the midterm elections, it is highly likely, as Steve Bannon, once upon a time a heartbeat away from President Trump, has predicted, may lose the Republicans as many as 30 to 40 congressional seats, losing them control of both the Senate and the House of Representatives. Then Donald Trump will truly be up the Dnipro without a paddle. But the issue of his cognition, the issue of his ability to survive a Chapter 25, Article 25 challenge from within his own cabinet, an article which allows a cabinet to begin the removal of a president if he's no longer capable of carrying out his duties, is only one of our problems, because long before we get to that, Donald Trump may have plunged us into a maelstrom that will make the foregoing look like a tea party. I don't know where to start as I adumbrate them. Perhaps the most dangerous one of all. After claiming that he would end the Ukraine war in 24 hours, that he would end the Ukraine war before even taking up the reins of office, saying that he would end the Ukraine war in 70 days, 14 days. We're now 6 months on, and Biden's war has become Trump's war. There's no getting away from it. Donald Trump, with his pronunciamento on Monday, his little surprise for Russia, is pregnant with the terrifying danger of World War III. Let's just slowly take apart what it was that he decided to do. He's decided to massively escalate the flow of American arms to the Zelensky regime. That's the Zelensky regime he humiliated in front of the world's media in the Oval Office just a couple of short months ago, when he told them that he had no cards, when he told them that he shouldn't have started a war that he couldn't finish, when he told them that he was a little dictator, although he left the little out. He called him a dictator. He highlighted that Zelensky had no democratic mandate at all. He momentarily turned off the taps of intelligence and of weapons. Now he is massively opening the taps. He has promised a massive increase in the flow, in the value of military material going to Zelensky. If you want an idea of how important that decision was, let me give you just Mike Pompeo. You'll remember him, former Secretary of State, former head of the CIA, who was caught on tape saying, "We lied, we cheated, we stole." Every crime that the CIA has ever committed was admitted by its director, Mike Pompeo. He was too hawkish to get a job in Donald Trump's cabinet, though he tried very hard to do so. He shed his skin, losing 10 stone in weight, but his black heart remains intact. He welcomed Donald Trump's latest turn on Ukraine as the greatest thing since sliced bread, especially as he no longer eats it. Or I could give you Boris Johnson, the man who destroyed the prospects of a peaceful solution to the Ukraine question just a month or so after it had begun, when he flew to Kiev to insist that Zelensky fight on to the last drop of Ukrainian blood. Boris Johnson said that it was a welcome sign that Donald Trump was getting tough with the Russians. "Let's get this on, let's get this over," said Boris Johnson. All the worst people in the world welcomed Donald Trump's turn to Zelensky, a turn to war, the path that might lead to World War III. And the people who had loyally supported Donald Trump the most, Thomas Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the loss of Elon Musk will be as nothing compared to the loss of Steve Bannon and MAGA and Tucker Carlson and co., especially as there's now another party, Elon Musk's America Party, in which these individuals and many, many more may now seek safe harbor. The worst people in the world hailed Donald Trump's re-engagement with the war. The best people in his own movement disavowed it completely. He's doubled down on the issue of the cover-up of the child sex and prostitution ring around the Israeli intelligence asset, Jeffrey Epstein. Tucker Carlson sent shockwaves across the world in his speech last weekend, in which he made plain that which is obvious to anyone with eyes, that Epstein's affair was not just about sex, but about espionage and about kompromat and the gathering of same from the rich and the powerful for later use. A later use which the less than gullible can only conclude includes Donald Trump. There is no other reason why Donald Trump would now seek to persuade us that there is no such thing as the Epstein affair, that it was all a hoax. There is no other reason why Donald Trump could possibly imagine that this could do other than rend his base asunder, as all of them had spent years demanding that they open the books to Jeffrey Epstein's spying and sex ring. But Trump has doubled down. Even when A.G. Bondi first said that she might look again at releasing some of the information, Trump again slapped her down. It doesn't exist. It's all a hoax. It's a Democratic Party hoax, which is presumably why Bill Clinton figures so heavily in it. And moreover, he doesn't want the support of people who continue to talk about it. This is political harikiri being conducted in broad daylight. He continues to run off at the mouth at any camera that points in his direction, saying the opposite of what he said yesterday and the opposite of what he'll say tomorrow. But every time he speaks, he hemorrhages another significant portion of the political support that propelled him to a second term in the White House. The Epstein affair isn't going away, you know, not least because there's a woman called Ghislaine Maxwell who is rotting in a federal penitentiary for a 20-year stretch without possibility of parole, who is determined to use the now non-existence of the Epstein affair, now that it is established that Epstein was not trafficking young girls to anybody. She's legitimately asking, how come then I am still in prison? And she's the one person who can blow the entire gaff. And she's threatening to do so unless she is released from prison. If she is released from prison by Donald Trump by way of a presidential pardon, which now that the appeal has been turned down is the only way I can see that it could be achieved, well, that will give the story even greater legs than Ghislaine Maxwell undoubtedly once upon a time had. But the most significant thing is Donald Trump's threat ultimatum, as if the Russian leadership, having fought so long and hard and made so many territorial gains, winning new villages and even towns and cities every single week, as if the devastation visited on the military-industrial complex of Ukraine was not so significant that the last thing in the world Vladimir Putin is going to do is accept an ultimatum from a failing presidency whose popularity is dropping like a stone. But that didn't stop Trump from delivering it. Again, to the cheers of all the worst people in the world, Trump has given Putin 50 days to make a deal with Volodymyr Zelensky, or 100% secondary tariffs will be imposed on everybody in the world who buys anything from Russia. Now, when I say secondary tariffs, when I say extraterritoriality, you better believe that even by the United States standards, this is quite a reach. Donald Trump is saying that if India buys oil from Russia to keep its burgeoning economy turning, then anything that India sells on to the United States, anything, will cost 100% more than it does today. Ditto with China, an even bigger enchilada. They are threatening China, which incidentally, on the day that the 50-day ultimatum runs out, Putin is where? In China, meeting who but Xi Jinping on a pre-arranged visit. So when that 50-day ultimatum elapses, the two leaders most concerned will be together in Beijing. The gall, the arrogance, the imperial hubris involved in threatening not punishment of Russia, but punishment of any and all countries who continue to do business with Russia, misses several important things. First, it seems to imply that selling things to the United States market is where it's at in the global economy, when in fact most countries in the world sell precious little to the United States and have other customers that they can sell what little they were selling to the United States and find those new customers very easily. But secondly, it seems to suppose that the countries being punished by Donald Trump will not retaliate. And I'm here to tell you that is the mother of all misconceptions. Let me just take two cases in point. Japan, already toiling under punitive American sanctions because of a perceived trade deficit, is seriously considering having a fire sale of American Treasury bonds in order to pay Trump's bill. A fire sale of American debt will create a conflagration throughout the world because it will collapse the price, the value of those American assets, those American Treasury bills. Once they start getting dumped, will collapse in value. And with their collapse in value, will collapse the value of the dollar. More importantly, China, which has been slowly offloading the American bills that it holds, slowly distancing itself from the dollar, will now undoubtedly, rapidly and comprehensively ditch at whatever the short-term cost any American assets which it currently holds. And if China sells all of its American Treasury bills, it will create economic collapse in the United States. Because as I've been telling you for many years, China actually holds more dollars than the United States Treasury does itself. And China can afford, with 5.2% growth in just the last quarter, 5.2% growth in a quarter, China's economy can well withstand any temporary loss in selling American assets at a bargain basement price. But the United States cannot. But more significantly than that, China is beginning to realize, although it has always known that the final reckoning would be between the United States and China, China is beginning to recognize that the time for that final reckoning may be much, much closer to hand than they had in their timetable. The truth is, the Americans will not go quietly into the good night of second place, soon actually overtaken even by India, and thus in third place. Eventually overtaken by Africa, the richest continent in the world. The United States is going down. And the signs are that they're not going to go down quietly. I wish I had time to spend more than 1 minute on what happened in Damascus today, when despite all the offers of normalization, without the slightest care for the supine behavior of the new regime in Damascus, conceding the Golan Heights, conceding a whole tranche of Syrian territory as a buffer zone for Israel. Israel today bombed and I think destroyed the Syrian presidential palace live on television. They did the same to the Syrian Defense Ministry. The proximate reason given was because the Takfiri savages of Al-Qaeda and ISIS were on a rampage of mass murder against the Druze minority in Syria. As if Israel cared about Syrian Druze. This is merely a cover for an attempt to completely dominate its neighbor Syria and to, if possible, divide the entire territory between itself and Mr. Erdogan's Turkey. And therefore, as someone who despises Golani, as someone who despises the regime in Damascus, when Israel bombs and attacks them, I stand with Syria. Stay tuned. I'll be right back.